What's up, guys? This is the Synergy JCM800 module built in collaboration with Marshall themselves. This is the second official Marshall licensed unit, and we're going to take a listen to it. It's in my Syn 1 dock going into the Fryette power station to the Splawn cabinet. I've got the Ceriatone Centura drive here in front of the unit, and the Del Verb is between the Syn 1 and the power station for some light chorus and some delay here and there. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start off with what I've got set up as the kind of the high gain setting, and then we'll go to the low gain. We'll hear it boosted, unboosted, the effects, you name it, you know the deal. Let's get going here. I have my friends at Zzounds to thank for sending me the unit to try out here for a little while in the studio and to show you guys. Big thanks to them getting it out on short notice here right around the release date so that I can get my own opinions out there for you guys, if you care. But anyways, let's go ahead and hear some sounds. Got the Charvel, got the Doug Ulrich bridge pickup, and the Saturday Night Special in the bridge, or in the neck. So yeah. right, so those are some quick sounds. We'll go back into it here in a minute. Let me talk a little bit about the unit first. So this is a 2-channel unit, 2 identical channels apparently, and each channel has a low or high gain sensitivity input setting, which kind of simulates plugging into either the high or the low sensitivity inputs of the real JCM800. You've also got a 3-way bright toggle, which I have on my Ceriatone, which is really handy, where you can have kind of the stock, which I assume is also in this unit, the 1000 picofarad capacitor bright cap on the input. On the middle setting of the switch, it completely bypasses the bright cap, and on the top setting, which is in the up position of each switch, I believe it's kind of an in-between. It's not as bright or abrasive and aggressive as the bottom setting, but it's also a little bit brighter than the middle setting where it's disabled. So I like that you have those options, and like I said on my review for this amp, having that bright switch is a huge flexibility tool that really lets you kind of customize not just the top end bite to kind of go with whatever cabinet and speaker combination you're using, but also it can add more gain. So if you want kind of a more laid back and slightly less like in your face sound from the gain structure, you can disable that cap and then have a little bit more headroom and flexibility and a bit different structure to the sound that you can use your favorite boost pedal with. So I like that option, and it's great that we have that on both channels. And for the first time in the Synergy lineup, this pedal uses 3 preamp tubes, and I don't know if they borrowed any of the architecture from the Tone King pedal, the Royalist. That one has 3 preamp tubes as well. So there might be some kind of DNA sharing between these. I mean, they're all sort of in the same family, but these are all very different sounding units, but they kind of have a little bit of a similarity with their kind of their DNA in terms of like how they're built, but very different sounds from all these units, like I've said in basically every video that I've done for the Synergy stuff. So I like that they're adding that extra tube in there. I don't know what it actually does. Maybe it's a phase inverter tube. I don't know. It sounds really good, so maybe it's doing something nice in there. I have reviewed the Synergy branded, sort of the generic JCM800 module, which I'll throw up somewhere here on the page. But I really liked that unit, and I liked that you had the whole like 2-channel nature of it. And this one takes it a step further and gives you 2 completely separate EQ settings. So you can really fine tune exactly how you want each channel to sound, whether you want kind of like a big kind of fat lower gain sound on one channel and then more of a scoop setting on your higher gain setting. So you have that option, and it's really nice that they did that, which they didn't have to. They could have stayed a little bit more authentic and just given you 1 EQ that's shared between them, but having 2 is just that much more flexibility with it. So it's nice to see. Now, the one main difference that I have noticed between this unit and the actual amp is that the low sensitivity setting on this has way more gain available than the amp does. On the amp, you can crank it up and have like this big kind of full, rich, clean sound, like very sparkling and just a really fat, warm, clean sound. On this, you have to have the gain relatively low to still achieve some clean-ish sounds. You can still get a clean sound, but there's just so much more gain available, and I don't know if I'm a fan of that. I know that there are guys who would want a kind of like a crunchy sound and then a higher gain sound. So for those types of players, it's great that it does have that extra gain. But if you're looking for like complete authenticity here, there were some creative liberties taken with that lower sensitivity in terms of just giving you more gain than the real amp has. All right, I'm going to play some more, and we're going to hear those bright switches in action, kind of what they do, play around with a bit more gain, and just sort of see what more sounds we can get from this unit. I mean, they're 800 sounds. It sounds like an 800. So let's just play around a little bit more, and we'll catch up after that. All right, so this is about as clean of a sound as you're going to get from this module. And bear in mind, this is an Alnico 2 pickup, so it's very low output. So if you have active pickups or higher output, Alnico 5, Alnico 8, whatever, ceramics, you're probably not going to get the best clean sounds out of this. But if you're using those pickups, you're probably not really interested in cleans to begin with. So Eh. So the higher output bridge pickup, it's already wanting to get crunchy. Well, since it wants to get crunchy, let's play around with the bright switch and you'll hear just how that kind of can increase the gain, but also it will get very aggressive in the top end. So it's something that you do have to really kind of be mindful of and balance with the bright control. And as you can see, I've got the, let's see, the presence is pulled back pretty far, but I'll go ahead and pull it all the way down after I turn the bright switch on, because you're going to hear it gets rowdy. Still. Like, you've got to want a lot of bite to use that setting. Or if you have a very dark cab or a dark guitar, that's where it comes in handy. Let's go to the top setting. Way, way better for this setup. Like, that's high input sensitivity on the real amp, like, all day long. So it's a lot of gain for what should be a low gain crunch channel. All right, let's go to the lead channel and play around a little bit more, kind of see how high gain we can get it, and play a little bit more with the boost, and probably wrap it up after that. Very low setting on the gain for this channel. Once you start getting the gain up there, it does fill out a little bit more, which I guess the real amp also does. It kind of fattens up a little bit there once you increase the preamp gain. So let's go a little bit higher. Let's hit that with the boost. I'm going to turn the gain all the way down. See what happens. All right, well, that is the Marshall Synergy Marshall JCM800 module. And again, big thanks to the guys at Zzounds for letting me borrow this for a hot minute here in the studio to show you guys. Unfortunately, I don't have the little Syn 20 head anymore. I keep having to send those things back. Hoping the Synergy will check their DMs. Would really love to have one, even if it's a loaner, on the channel so that I could use for more of these modules, because like I alluded to in one of the more recent Synergy module reviews that I did, I think that the Syn 20 head really brings extra life and more options and flexibility to these modules, with the ability to kind of select the different structure that you want on each of the 3 channels. I think that that's a really big bonus, so that you can have one channel if you want like a fatter response from the power section. You can set that up that way, and then if you want like a higher gain lead sound, a little bit more aggression and tighter, you can configure a tighter setting for your lead sound. And you can't do that on the Syn 1. You're just sort of stuck with whatever you got. And I really like that that's an option with that little Syn 20 head. So I definitely feel like I am missing out on a little bit with what this module is probably capable of. However, the trade-off here in the studio is that I have a 50-watt power section to play around with, so it does hit a little bit harder. And that sort of is a good segue into kind of how I feel, my honest thoughts on this unit. And I feel like this unit is largely dependent on what power section you're using. If you're using the little Syn 20 head, there's a certain part of the JCM800 experience that I feel like you're missing out on. And it's also somewhat translated into the little 20-watt studio head. And in my opinion, a big part of playing through a JCM800, whether it's the 2203 or the 2204, is the sheer just abusive nature of the volume and the output. It's ridiculous how loud and how hard they hit you just upside your head with their volume. And to me, that's part of what makes playing through a JCM800 so fun, is beating yourself up when you're playing. Like, it sounds weird, but feeling that power coming from the amp and a 412 or multiple 412s is part of what makes the JCM800 such an incredible amplifier. And that also holds very true with the Super Lead and the Plexi. A 50 or 100 watt Plexi, they just hit your head. The sound just hits your head in a brutal way that very few other amps on the market can do. And when you take the preamp and you have the voice is right. The voice on almost all of these Synergy modules is right, but there are some of them that the real life counterpart that they're kind of modeled after, it varies. They're very dependent on the power section as being a core part of the character and the experience of the amp. And that's very true, in my opinion, for the JCM800. Now, I don't think that this is a bad module at all. It nails the JCM800 sound. But if you have something like the Syn 1 dock here, and you can send it into a big, powerful tube preamp like the FX Loop Return of something like this, or something like the Fryette Power Station, you're getting there. And that's when the kind of the actual, like, the full JCM800 experience can really start to come alive for you. Now, I've said it plenty of times on the channel, I love the little Syn 20 head. I feel like the features that you get in exchange for not having that gigantic power section behind it, I feel like that's a good trade-off. And especially at the price point that the Syn 20 head is where it's at in the market. But for some of these units, I feel like you don't get the full experience of what the real amps are capable of. Like this, the Plexi, the VH4, it hugely is kind of kneecapped by that 20 watt power section when you compare it to the real deal. So some of these modules, if you have a good, big, powerful power amp that you can send these modules into, they're incredible. And other modules, they don't really need the big power amp to deliver what I feel like is the full experience. I feel like the Deliverance module and that 2CP module, both of them sounded incredible with just running straight out of the Syn 1 into like the Aux Stomp cab sim. And they worked really well with the power station. And I didn't feel like I was missing out on the real 2C and Deliverance experience. Now, both of those amps in real life, unbelievable and just legendary in their own rights. But unlike this, I felt like the modules really worked well no matter what you sent them through power-wise. So I guess that's sort of my big picture idea on this unit also. It depends on, do you need or do you really want that crazy powerful volume? Or are you a player that's in a situation where you just want silent recording and you want the essence of the JCM800 without the kind of crazy volume and power that comes with it? Or are you someone who plays on stage and you really don't need a very loud amp on stage, but you do want that extra flexibility of having a clean speaker sim DI signal that you can send to the front of the house? Again, that's the Syn 20 right there for you. That's where you would pair this with the Syn 20 and have a much more controllable and flexible setup. So there's options for every type of player, I feel like, and that's kind of what makes the Synergy stuff so popular and so special, in my opinion, is that you have all of these options. If you don't need a little 20 watt head, you can get the 50 watt head and have an extra module. Or you can have the rack unit that can hold an extra module and send that to whatever power amp you want. So you've got all these options, and there really is something for everyone, I feel like, unless you're 100% a purist where you want the real deal. I respect that, I get that, but for people who might not have the budget for what some of these real amps cost, these are awesome alternatives that get you very close to the real product. So that's my whole, so I'll get off my soapbox now, but that's just sort of like, and I don't want to sort of go over the same thing over and over again in every Synergy video, but I felt like it was especially kind of pertinent to this module in particular, because I feel very similarly to this module that I felt with the JMP module, where the vibe is right. There's my phrase with these, the vibe is right, but you need the power section for the full authentic experience, and you might not be happy without that. So again, just something to think about there. All right, well, another big thanks to the guys at Zzounds for letting me borrow this unit, and I'll have affiliate links to their website down there in the video description, and those links, they help a little bit, help give me a little bit of a kickback on the commission at no extra cost to you guys. And if you're not interested in buying anything, but you still want to help support my work, you can feel free to subscribe if you're not subscribed already, to help my channel grow and get these videos out there to more new viewers. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.